There's a massive list of video games based off of movies, and if you look really, really far back to the 90s to the early 2000s, there's just a sea of that shit that everybody wanted to explore. With the way that we're seeing so many movies being adapted from video games and how most video games are pretty much a movie in their own right, it made me really curious to see how did those games that have seemed to be forgotten about hold up to this day. Okay, so there's a couple of different factors that I'm looking for when I'm playing these games. One, authenticity. Basically, is it authentic to the source material? How accurate is it to the movie? That kind of thing. Two is just gameplay, overall mechanics of the game. How well does that hold up on its own right? You know, I'm not gonna play a video game if it's a bad video game. And number three, I wanna see if these games can stand on their own. Can I play the game, get the gist of what the movie's about without actually having to watch the movie? I know it's a weird factor, but when I was a kid, that was pretty big. You would see it in a lot of the Lego games, like Lego Star Wars, etc. Now, I did lie a little. These video games do actually date back a little bit further than the 90s. There is a title that was released back in 1982 by the name of Indiana Jones. In 1982, Raiders of the Lost Ark came out for the Atari 2600, and this happened to be the first video game adapted from a movie. It even has a Guinness World Record for that fact. So I thought that was kind of cool. Start the game, you are greeted with this beautiful high-pitched theme of what I think is the Indiana Jones theme song. Now, upon figuring out what button starts the game, you are spawned into this small little box and you die. I'm not kidding. The moment you spawn, there's this squiggly little thing, which I can only presume is a snake, because Indiana Jones, and you die. So you're given 3 lives throughout this entire game, and right away, if you don't know what the f you're doing, you die. So that was a really cool way to start the game. Eventually, after dodging the snake, you are able to live, which is cool. And at the very bottom of the screen, as you can tell, there's a little brown stick. That brown stick happens to be his whip. So that was a fun little touch. Props there. But why does it look like that? I know Atari, but wow. And throughout my experience with this game, I died a lot. Like a lot. A lot.
What was that?
The moment you spawn, you die by a snake. The second you go to the next level, you fall off of a fucking cliff and die. And as I traverse through the world, I eventually find myself in, I think was only the 3rd or 4th level or room. And there's this creepy little dude who chases you all over the place. You got to go around rocks, and then eventually you just... It's so hard to outrun this man. And eventually, if you get to the very bottom of the level, there's not really much direction in where to go. Again, probably missing something here, but granted, it's not very obvious. So eventually I just gave up. I was at this for about an hour and a half and I could not take any more of it. So I gave up. So 1, authenticity. I do think that it really tries its best. It's an Atari game, and it's really hard to tell what I'm looking at half of the time. But I have to say, the whip was a nice touch. The snakes, it's clear that we're in a bit of a jungle scene here. So I would say, overall, maybe a 3 out of 5. Just because of the limitations, it's really hard to tell. But even Indy has his own little hat. I think that's his hat. Gameplay, I would absolutely give this a 0. But that might be just because of my experience. So I'm going to give it a 1. It's not super advanced in any way. I've played Atari games where it is possible to do a little bit more than just die. So I'm going to give this one a 1. Now, does it hold up well on its own? No. I don't think it does. I don't think there's really a way where I could play this game and soak in what the hell it is that it's in relation to. Yes, there's a whip, there's snakes, and there's a man who's potentially Indiana Jones, but I'd give it a 2. Next up is everybody's favorite spy, Mr. 007 himself in a banger of a game. It may be one of the best Nintendo 64 games ever made, and this is not just me saying that. I look at Metacritic, it's obvious that this game is at the top of the list for most folk. When you load into the first level, your mission is to disable all of the alarms and kind of just run through a checklist. I think you're supposed to disable satellites and stuff. Spoiler, I didn't know how to do that. As you traverse through the world, you go through different tunnels, you find your way in coming across the enemy several times, so you're killing a lot of people, and you are also dying with this wonderful dying animation. It really drills it in that you're dead. And you die 3 times, which is really cool. Over and over and over again. Really cool. I would say all of the dying was pretty worth it. You go through all the tribulations, you die several times, you kill a lot of dudes, you disable a couple of alarms, and then you jump off of a cliff with a fucking bungee cord. You can't see the bungee cord, so it kind of looks like 007's just killing himself, but still felt kind of badass. Overall, it's a great fucking game. I don't have a lot more to say about it since I only played the first level, and maybe that sounds a little sad, but I wanted to soak all of 007 in as possible. That sounds really bad. And I can see why it's so heavily praised. There's just so much that I can go on about, but how does it hold up as a video game adapted from a movie? I would say for authenticity, this is pretty strong. It really holds up to the movie standards. It even has all of the actors that you would see in the movie. I haven't seen the movie in a long time, but from what I can gather, it's a spy game, spy movie. They blend together and they follow all the tropes really well. I think it truly captures the essence, so I would give it a 4 out of 5. I feel like that's kind of fair, no? The mechanics and gameplay were ahead of its time, and I think that it holds up extremely well. So for a game that I could just play on my own, I think I would have to give this a 5 out of 5. It's so perfect. And then does it hold up on its own if I've never seen the movie? Yes, it really does. It doesn't really take a lot of the plot from the movie, but it still has similar guidelines that the movie followed. So I would give this a 4.2 out of 5. Yes, I'm throwing in a decimal. Next up, Cat in the Hat. Oh boy, Cat in the Hat. Oh God, where do I start with Cat in the Hat? As most people know, if not everybody, Cat in the Hat eventually, after the cartoon from 1970 released, I don't know who thought of this idea, but in the early 2000s, we see Cat in the Hat yet again with Mike Myers reprising the role, and it is fucking weird. Yes, it's weird and creepy, but I really do love this movie. I grew up in the early 2000s, so it kind of holds a nostalgic piece for me, but it also has that weird liminal look that you'd see all over the internet, kind of like the Backrooms. It just captures that vibe. I don't know how else to explain it. So that's the movie. How's the game? Let me show you. It's creepy. It's just as creepy. It's actually more creepy than the movie. I don't know how they did it, but this man is it's scary. I still see him. The game is centered around the house that Cat in the Hat breaks into, and essentially the whole plot of the game is for you to chase Alec Baldwin because he's stealing like the magic or something. He's jumping into different objects throughout the house, and you have to kick him out. And that's kind of what I've gathered. And as you go through each level, you eventually make progress throughout the house, and you can kind of, I guess, continue jumping into objects. And when you enter one of these levels, you realize that this is just a side scroller. Everything you do is just side scrolling. So it kind of felt like a Little Big Planet level, but that was the entire game. There are a couple of moments where you can like ride a rocket and jump to a different part of the level, but it's still just side-scrolling. And that can get a little boring after a little while. I think it's something where you have to keep adding new things to make it feel special. Each side scroller, you're equipped with a couple different things. You have the ability to shoot bubbles, capture enemies, and shoot enemies. Yeah, and there's also this goo that you could shoot at things, so that's cool. And then eventually you can go in, capture keys from thing 1 and thing 2, and it gives you a secret level where you can shoot more bubbles and run around. It's really boring, but look at the grass physics. I mean, that's kind of cool, right? So how would it rank though? Overall, I think the authenticity of the game is pretty on point. It's very, very much like the movie and the creepy atmosphere of just, this doesn't feel real. And it's that liminal feeling that I was talking about, that it really hits the mark. So I give it a 4 out of 5. It captures the essence of the movie pretty well. Gameplay mechanics falls real far. I'd give this maybe a solid 2, because there are a couple of moments where it does add a little bit of variety, but at the end of the day, it's still just the same thing you're doing over and over, shooting bubbles and running right or left. Not my favorite. Now, I don't know if it necessarily stands on its own 2 legs, mainly because if I was to watch the movie and move over to the game, yes, I do think that there are parts where it's just like, oh, there's this, and I think I saw that in the movie one time. But if I just play the video game, I'm not picking up a lot on what the plot is. It's kind of throwing you in the middle of all of it right after the mess has already happened, etc. So I would give this maybe I'd give this like a 2 out of 5. I don't know if this does anything for you, but this intro put me in the most beautiful psychosis that I wish to have never have left, but I still have to make this video. That might make me biased, because I fucking love Lord of the Rings, but there's a reason why I chose this game in specific, being Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring. I've actually never played it. I own every other Lord of the Rings game on the PlayStation 2, and this one is very different. I didn't look a lot into it, but apparently it's more so based off of the book. Hold on, I'll get to it in a moment. You can kind of tell that there's parts in this that are from the movie and are also not. So after that beautiful intro, you are thrown into a cutscene. And in this cutscene, it's kind of just going over the start of Lord of the Rings. Essentially, Gandalf is giving his spiel to Frodo and all this. Everybody's seen this, and it's a complete one-to-one to the movie and the book. And it's pretty well done. It's a little long, though. I'm not going to lie. But at this point is when I realized that this is probably based more so off of the book than the movie. What stood out to me most was the characters looked a little different than the rest of the adaptations, especially Gandalf. I mean, I feel like if you're going to do Gandalf, I instantly think Ian McKellen, so I'm sorry that this is more so based off of the book, but the book is based off of the movie, and then the game is based off of the book. So I'm sure there's some sort of loophole you can find in there, but I mean, it's okay, right? The game takes you through a couple of different missions. You are tasked with just generally selling the deed to the Shire, just because you're about to be sent on your journey, and you gotta say bye to everybody. You're polite. You're a hobbit. You gotta say bye. And after being completely enthralled in the Shire and every little aspect that I'm not super familiar with, because you don't get to see parts of the Shire like this in any other game or movie, and it just felt a little bit more magical. So I was a little distracted, and I did get lost a lot. I got lost a lot. Now that I think about it, eventually you are set to leave the Shire with my boy Sam. This is the part where I died.
What?
And after you die, you are supposed to load your save. I didn't save at any point in the game. So I had to restart everything.
No. No, what?
I decided to not do that because I was about 2 hours into the game, and that would have been really sucky poopy. I kind of just, I walked away and cried a little, and now we're here. I think that this game is pretty sick. It's got a lot of really fun moments. It's also got a lot of dialogue, which I personally love, though some of the missions were fairly mundane. And I mean, at this point, I've played a lot of really crappy games, so the bar was pretty low at this point. Overall, how would I rate this? Authenticity. It's not, and I'm going to be completely honest here, it's not really based off of the movie. It's more so based off of the book. And due to the whole, theme of this video, I would say I would give it maybe a 2 out of 5. Unless you find a loophole, in that case, it's a 5 out of 5. Gameplay mechanics, 3 out of 5. I don't have a lot to say about it. It's pretty straightforward. Everything is pretty smooth. It doesn't feel buggy in any sense, and it just works. So a 3 out of 5. Now, does it stand on its own? I would say yes, absolutely. It's a lot of fun. I think it does follow the plot of Lord of the Rings. So overall, I'd give it a 4 out of 5 because I mean the movie is really just it's the same story. So I'm gonna just start by saying I don't have a lot to say about this game. This game being Jumanji. It sucked a lot. If you couldn't tell at this point, I've been trying to follow a bit of a trend through the decades, starting all the way back in 1982 and now ending at 2019 with Jumanji. I wanted to see if there was a bit of a pattern here, and I'm gathering games have started to degrade a little when it comes to the topic of adaptations. And I'll get back to that at the end of the video, but I just want you to hold on to that for a little bit. To touch on the movie, I love the movie. I had a lot of fun watching it when it first came out. Granted, that was like 7 years ago, but at the same time, it was a great movie. And the second one was cool, but this one's not based off of that. And apparently they're making like a third, but that's besides the point. How do I feel about the game? I think you already know at this point, since I've already said it a couple times, but it sucked a lot. It was really boring. So essentially, the whole plot of the game is you choose a level. The whole premise of the game is to get from level to level, kind of dungeon crawling to the very end to where you can say Jumanji and that'll be it. You get to play with up to 4 people, or at least it's a 4-player game, which I think is great. I always welcome a couch co-op, but I'm lonely, so I played by myself. And the AI was solid, but granted, there's not a lot going on here. So you just shoot bad guys, pick up rocks, and say Jumanji. As I was going through the game, it went on for a really, really long time. It didn't stop. It continued to go for, I think, around a dozen levels, which just felt way too long since everything was just a rinse and repeat of the last level. To move on to the rankings, generally, the authenticity of this game is fairly strong. It does follow the movie pretty well, and I think they do go 1-to-1 quite well. So I'd give this maybe a 3 out of 5. You can tell that there's a lot of the levels that do feel very 1-to-1 to the movie, and then on top of that, the whole Jumanji thing, the characters look identical. Like, look at Jack Black. That man is spicy. So I would give this a 3 out of 5. Gameplay, mechanics, not really good. The general gameplay is just shooting things, and that is really boring. They weren't clunky in any way. I do think that they could have been a little bit more there could have been a little more pizzazz, but I would give that maybe like a 3 out of 5 as well, just because it was kind of just generic. Now, does it stand on its own if I never saw the movie? No. It literally, you're running through the whole world, levels, dungeon, and you just say Jumanji, takes you back to the main menu, and you're to move on to the next level. I don't think that there's much that I would really pick up on in general essence to the movie, besides the characters. I think that's the only thing grounding any relation to the movie itself. So, overall, not a good game. Please avoid. Good thing I spent real money on this. In conclusion, there's a lot of pretty solid games out there adapted from movies. And there's also a lot of really bad ones. And I think with some of these examples, it goes to show some of these movies should really just stay movies. But when we're talking about the games that actually hold up well, it gives a little bit more life to the IP. For example, if I was a kid and all I really cared about was video games, I would have loved Lord of the Rings, and it would have inspired me to watch the movie, which it actually did. So in that regard, I think it's really awesome to see these adaptations, only if effort's put into them. I don't want another Cat in the Hat. Nobody asked for that. Thank you for watching, guys. If I didn't rate these games fairly, let me know in the comments. I would love to know what your opinion is. And on top of that, there's a lot of these games out there. So if you want to see more of this, let me know. Shoot a couple of games my way, and I would love to make a part 2. Thank you again. Please have a good day. I will see you next time. Peace.